Welcome back to Rising. Lindsay, what's in your lens today?
Yeah, so here's what's really happening. Republicans are bracing for midterm losses, and instead of broadening the electorate, they're trying to narrow it. The House has already passed legislation requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote. Now what comes next, some are calling the quote Save America Act on steroids, banning universal vote by mail, prohibiting the counting of ballots received after election day, banning ranked choice voting, restricting ballot collection, and expanding the Department of Homeland Security's access to voter rolls. Let's be clear, there are rarely ever documented cases of non-citizens voting. Even Representative Joseph Morell pointed out a real number that should concern lawmakers even more. 80 million eligible Americans didn't even vote in 2024. If election integrity were truly the crisis, wouldn't the focus be on participation? And even as Republicans turn their attention to November, they still struggle with how to talk about these past losses. In a heated exchange during the Rules Committee hearing last week, Representative Brian Steele, the Republican chairman of the House Administration Committee, was answering questions from Democratic Representative Joe Neguse about the 2024 and 2020 election results. When asked directly whether Joe Biden won Georgia in 2020, his response wasn't a simple yes. It was, quote, as reported, the state of Georgia cast its electoral ballots for Joe Biden. When pressed about whether Kamala Harris won Minnesota, the answer was, quote, the Electoral College was counted in favor of Kamala Harris. Why the linguistic gymnastics? If the elections were legitimate, just say so plainly. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Trump's political team is focused on something entirely different, the economy. According to reporting at a strategy session hosted by Susie Wiles and James Blair, pollsters emphasize that affordability will dominate voter concerns. One key message, according to the Daily Beast, was that Trump can be unpredictable, averse to data, and likely say and do as he pleases, so everyone else must stay disciplined and data-driven. That tells you a lot, because the numbers aren't great. So Reuters Ipsos shows 38% of people approve of Trump's job performance. A Harvard poll finds 53% of voters say the economy is worse today than it was under Biden. That's a flashing warning light heading into a midterm where history already favors the opposition party. So here's the bigger picture. Publicly, the message is election security, to rile people up, even though most people know there is no evidence of election fraud. Privately, the focus is the economy and economic vulnerability. That's not a coincidence. When you see new voting restrictions paired with persistent claims that losses can only happen through fraud, it creates a narrative cushion, a sort of built-in explanation if the political winds turn. And this is not about one bill. It's about setting expectations. If you're confident in your actual agenda and your economic record, you expand the playing field. You persuade. You compete. When you're worried about turnout and underwater approval ratings, you start redefining the rules. That's the tension at the heart of this moment, and voters should be paying attention.
Yes, I agree. The economy is the issue of the day, and the Republican Party under Trump has not given this issue the attention we know it deserves, and we expected them to give it, because this is what doomed, one of the things that doomed Joe Biden is being out of step with both the perception of the economy not doing well and the actual fact of the matter that grocery prices were up and housing prices and everything else. And I think this ruinous tariff policy has not helped matters at all. People of a basically free market, people of a basically conservative economic disposition have explained time and time again that doing this is just a tax on the American people. It's just like raising your taxes on the things you're paying for. And when Republican members of Congress go back to their districts, what they hear is complaints from small business owners about how everything costs more because of what the president's doing. But Congress could have reined them in and won't. They're hoping, all of them, behind closed doors, that the Supreme Court reins them in, which they might do any day now, in the decision on whether the tariffs are constitutional. So that's where we are. It's not unusual for the president's party to take a beating in the midterms. That's what usually happens. I think Trump is bracing himself for it for that reason. It's never too late to try to
Turn it
things
around.
but they're not really focused on that.
But that's the problem to me. Even if they are secretly having, or not even secretly, behind the scenes trying to figure out how to make the economy better, the fact that there's this overemphasis on widespread voter fraud when there's no proof of that whatsoever, the fact that we're hearing Kristi Noem, I believe, say we need the right people voting, and we're constantly hearing this message publicly about the fact that people that came here illegally are overwhelmingly taking over our elections with no proof whatsoever. And that's been the overwhelming messaging. The fact that we saw the FBI, let me finish. The fact that we saw the FBI in Georgia trying to grab information about the poll results from an election that Trump knows darn well that he lost. He's bringing back up the conversation and trying to rile up the base over the same lie that riled them up a couple of years ago to get people ready for thinking that even perhaps the midterms or the next election is stolen in some way or rigged because of migrants. And I just think that's not the case. And the fact that that is on the table, we should all adamantly say that that's not to be true. You don't have any information that supports your argument.
Well,
and the fact that you're using that as like a number one slogan when the economy is doing poorly is just a bad tactic.
Well, he
has to move on from that. It's not true.
The effect that illegal immigrants have on voting is not that they're voting.
That's what they're saying. Okay.
It's that they disproportionately live in blue states, California, Illinois, New York. There's some in red states too. There's some in Texas and other places, but it does favor the blue states a little bit. And so that inflates the representation of California and Illinois and New York in the Electoral College, in congressional representation, by having the populations be bigger in those states, because the census is counting everybody, not just citizens. So that's the problem that the illegal migrants are having in terms of our voting. It's not that they're voting, it's the population.
Okay,
is that fair enough?
No, the fair enough point is that 80 million people didn't vote in 2024. Trump should be trying to figure out how to talk directly to them. Even Democrats, everybody should take this piece of advice. Figure out how to get the people that didn't vote, that may be frustrated, still have feelings, may be concerned about their day-to-day more than their right to vote, did not come out at all. And so that's a large swath of the country when you think about the fact that Trump got about 70 million votes, Biden has gotten around. So there's a whole swath of people that's more than who actually voted for either party in the last election that did not vote, that's sitting at home eligible to vote, either legal migrants or just literally sat at home. And that should be a concern to get them out in support of your policy. How do you support the people that feel completely disregarded by whatever each party has done, or not enthused enough to actually walk and get themselves to the polling place? There's some extenuating circumstances where people can't vote, and that's fine. But for the most part, people are just apathetic voters and just sitting at home because no one's talking to them. And so instead of Trump trying to go out and get those people and bring up his results in the midterms that way, he's trying to tell people, oh, these migrants, let's just blame everything on migrants. And that is, to me, a waste of time and a poor tactic when he knows he has no proof of migrants doing anything in our elections and swaying it in any way.
We'll leave it there. Next up, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg testified yesterday before a jury in a landmark social media case. Can't wait to discuss that. Stay with us.